Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The RBI clears a record surplus transfer to the government of 2.69 lakh crore rupees. This is 27% higher than the dividend transferred last year. The RBI also raises the contingent risk buffer to 7.5% from the current upper limit of 6.5%. President Trump threatens 25% tariffs on iPhones made outside the US. Trump also threatens 50% tariff on European Union from the 1st of June, saying the EU has been very difficult to deal with. Wall Street wobbles after fresh tariff threats. In European markets plunged more than 2%, with auto stocks leading the decline, fearing higher tariffs. India and the US may arrive at an in-principle agreement on the first tranche of the trade deal in the next 7 to 10 days. Sources say the US is likely to impose 10% tariffs on Indian goods, but some product lines could get zero duty. The Sensex and the Nifty end the week down nearly 1% despite a rally on Friday. 35 out of the 50 Nifty stocks post losses this week. Real estate and defense stocks buck the trend, gain over 2%. Harvard University sues the Trump administration over its move to ban enrollment of international students. Harvard argues the U.S. government's decision is a blatant violation of the First Amendment. More than 25% of students at Harvard are non-U.S. citizens. The U.S. House of Representatives approves Trump's tax cut bill. This includes a 3.5% tax on remittances sent by non-U.S. citizens to their countries of origin. Nearly 3 million Indians work in the U.S. under various visa programs. The U.S. contributed nearly 28% of remittances for India in FY24. The CEO of processor Naspers is betting big on food, fintech and e-commerce in India. Fabrizio Bloisi promises to invest billions and eyes at least 5 IPOs in the next 18 months despite setbacks in Byju's and Farmeezy. Also rules out any stake sale in Swiggy. That's an exclusive. Pakistan denied permission to IndiGo's Srinagar-bound flight for using its airspace to escape bad weather, says India's aviation regulator. The flight from Delhi suffered damage to the nose cone, leading to its grounding for further inspection. Passengers and crew escaped without injuries. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu accuses leaders of UK, France and Canada of emboldening Hamas after they called for an end to the military offensive in Gaza. At least 29 people, including children, have died due to starvation in the last few days, according to health officials in Gaza. Well, let's head straight to the market action. The markets witnessed major buying in trade today. That's Friday, with the benchmark indices rising nearly 1%. 48 out of the 50 Nifty stocks closing in the green. FMCG and IT were among the top gainers. But for the week, the market ended in the red. That's the story on Friday. But for the week, they closed lower by about 1% each, that is. Now, 35 Nifty stocks posted losses this week. So that's the snapshot of the market this week for you. But the top story that we're tracking this evening, the Reserve Bank has decided to transfer a record 2.69 lakh crore rupees to the Indian government as dividend for the last fiscal. Now, this amount is 27% higher than what the Reserve Bank transferred to the government in FY24. So look at that jump there. It's still lower than what the street was expecting. The RBI has also revised its economic capital framework and raised the upper limit of the contingent risk buffer range to 7.5%. Now, this is the buffer maintained by the central bank to cover unexpected and unforeseen financial risks. It is a key component of the economic capital framework, which determines the appropriate level of capital that the Reserve Bank should hold on to. So that has been hiked now to between 4.5% to 7.5%. Let's go across to Ritu. She joins us now to explain what the Reserve Bank has decided to do as far as its dividend is concerned and what the contingent risk buffers mean. Ritu.
Well, record high surplus transfer from the Reserve Bank of India to the central government, coming in at 2.69 lakh crores, which is an increase of more than 27% from last year's dividend transfer of 2.1 lakh crores. Now, this number, although large, is a tad below what the market was expecting at 3 lakh crores plus, and that is because the RBI board has also adopted a revised economic capital framework under which the contingency risk buffer was hiked to 7.5% at the upper end. Now, with without this large buffer, the surplus transfer could have been even higher and perhaps closer to market expectations. Now, the contingency risk buffer is nothing but the buffer that is maintained by RBI to cover any unexpected and unforeseen financial risks. And previously, it was at 5.5% to 6.5% of RBI's balance sheet, and that has now been widened to 4.5% to 7.5% under the revised framework. Now, RBI says this revised framework provides some flexibility to be able to maintain risk buffers, keeping in mind the prevailing macroeconomic and other factors, while also ensuring the needed intertemporal smoothing of transfer, which means avoiding any large fluctuations year on year. Now, while we'll get to know the fine print of what really contributed to this large surplus when we get the RBI annual report in the coming weeks, but safe to say the big contributor has been the gains from RBI's sale of dollars, which is probably the highest since the global financial crisis at $400 billion nearly for FY25 compared to just $153 billion in the year before, and RBI has made a profit on every dollar that it sold. Other key factors like interest income on rupee and foreign securities would have also lent some support. Now, a higher dividend payout is good news. It is going to augment the government's non-tax revenues, and it is also likely to improve liquidity conditions in the system as well as potentially ease the short-term interest rates.
Ritu, many thanks. Now, the Reserve Bank dividend is much higher than what the government was expecting in the union budget. Sapna standing by to explain how this provides a much-needed fiscal cushion for the government. Sapna, how will this help the fiscal math? Are we likely to see an improvement on the fiscal deficit number?
Just answering that question right away, of course, in terms of FY25, nothing much can be done because those numbers are more or less frozen. And we have been given an indication in the morning itself that, top government sources have indicated that 4.8 is what it is going to be for FY25. However, going forward, if you recall, in the current year, the FD numbers are slightly more, not challenging, but they are slightly that's a goalpost that the government has to meet. So, a bit of challenge could come on that front. But having said that, if you just look at the numbers, the kind of dividend that has come in, of course, it's a record number once again. And, the estimates are that probably around 2.20 lakh odd crore to 2.25 lakh odd crore was the number that the government had estimated in terms of the RBI dividends for the current financial year. Of course, the rest, is done by the PSB dividends and financial institutions. So having said that, against that, 2.68 is not a bad number at all, number one. Number two, it's like around 43,000 to 48,000 crores higher. And in terms of the GDP, of course, this would translate into a boost of more than 0.1% of the nominal GDP. Now, so there are two data sets here. One, of course, the GDP for the previous financial year, which is lower, and the higher estimate is there in the budget documents, 357 odd lakh crore is what the number is. So both net around 0.1 plus 0.1 plus is the kind of boost that is going to come to the exchequer. We'll have to, of course, wait and watch and see in the next couple of months how the government plans to use these funds. But at least 220 to 225 has already been factored in. So it's the additionality, the 43 to 48 odd thousand crores. That's the additionality that we have to wait and watch and see how that is actually used up. And government sources earlier indicated very clearly to CNBC TV 18 that this is a well-calibrated, well-balanced economic capital framework policy, as well as the dividend that has come in. Should we see it in that light? And of course, the fact that the risk buffers have been increased by RBI, keeping the current macroeconomic environment in mind. So going forward, there could be some easing out in terms of the future RBI dividends that will come through. Of course, they will be on the higher side, but maybe the growth rate will be paced out.
Yes, that certainly seems to be indicated by both the Reserve Bank as well as the government. Sapna and Ritu, thanks very much for joining us. And to all our viewers, you can catch our broadcast on the record RBI dividend as we analyze the numbers with top economists. That's coming up for you. But shares on Wall Street down sharply at opening bell, and markets across Europe have also seen a sharp sell-off. This after US President Donald Trump's latest tariff salvo. In his first post on his social media, President Trump said that Apple would have to pay tariffs of 25% or more for iPhones that are made outside of the US. He said, and I quote, "I have long informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their iPhones that will be sold in the US of America to be manufactured and built in the US, not India or any place else," end of quote. Now, only 30 minutes after this post, President Trump also said he was recommending a straight 50% tariff on the EU after complaining about stalled trade negotiations. The new import duties would start on the 1st of June. In his post, he said, and I quote, "EU has been very difficult to deal with. Our discussions with them are going nowhere," end of quote. So the tariff threats are back. Now, India and the US may arrive at an in-principle agreement on the first tranche of the trade deal in the next 7 to 10 days. Sources tell CNBC TV 18 that the US is likely to impose 10% tariffs on Indian goods, but some product lines could get zero duty. Parikshit is standing by with the details. So, Parikshit, tranche 1 in-principle agreement perhaps in the next week or 10 days?
Well, yes. We believe that the talks between Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and also the meeting between Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and USTR Jamieson Greer have been very positive, and both sides could reach an in-principle agreement as early as next week. Also, there has to be certain political agreement at the topmost levels. So it's possible that that Donald Trump would have to finally approve what has to happen. But we're told that an in-principle agreement is very close, and U.S. is not going to exempt India completely from reciprocal tariffs. It will be 10% that U.S. would want to impose on India, even after there is a reprieve from the 26% reciprocal tariffs. There will be zero tariffs, possibly on some goods, and we hear from sources that some of the labor-intensive sectors in India, some of the SME manufactured goods, those are the areas which could enjoy zero duty benefits. But the nitty-gritties, we're still due to hear on that. We're also told that there will definitely be an agreement well before the 9th of July when those reciprocal tariffs kick in. We have been speaking to our sources about this comment by Donald Trump about imposing a 25% tariff on Apple in case they don't manufacture in the United States. Sources telling us this is unlikely to have any material impact on manufacturing in India. This is mainly because Apple cannot shift manufacturing to USA over the next 2 to 3 years. It is going to take time, and even if they do manufacture in US, it is going to be expensive for the American consumer. So there is a feeling that there is going to be a way out, and Apple will be able to convince the US administration. And number 3, Apple would be using India to cater to other global markets in the years to come.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Fox News that the Trump administration is far along with India in trade talks. That's not all. He also said that with the exception of the EU, most nations were negotiating with the U.S. in good faith, and that's why we've seen that threat coming in from President Trump of imposing a 50% tariff on the EU. But the big newsmaker this evening, the global CEO of Process and Naspers, is betting big on food, fintech and e-commerce in India. Fabrizio Bloisi, the head of one of the world's largest tech investors, is planning to invest billions and has promised at least 5 IPOs by companies backed by Process in India. The portfolio Process spans across sectors, including companies like Swiggy, Rapido, Meesho, Urban Company, among others. Process is not keen on selling any stake in Swiggy at the moment, though. Take a look.
Yeah. We have in total $18, $19 billion in cash in Process. Yeah. Our intention is to invest to grow, and I think India is one of the 3 big priorities. So we will invest for sure a few billions here.
A few billions here, but your style of investing, when Process first started investing here, it was growth stage. Then in the last few years, we've seen early stage investments come up as well. Are you looking at, perhaps more larger deals, buyouts? Is that something you see an opportunity in the India market?
I think something that Process has is flexibility, and our strategy is to empower the local demands and the local entrepreneurs. We have 35 companies in India. Yeah. Having 5 IPO, it's not like this is the potential. This is the short-term potential. I think we will have more public companies from Process portfolio just after the next 10, 12 months, the next 12, 18 months. Well, so my point is, we are really confident that we have so many nice companies. We have many IPOs ahead. But I don't see IPOs as the end. Like, we are IPOing so we can sell. No, we are trying to build a $50 billion business here in India. There is so much more to do. We have to invest much more. We have to enable consolidation in terms of ecosystem consolidation, how some of our companies can help the others. That's what I think we bring to the table.
So for the time being, do you intend to continue holding on to that 20+% stake that you have in Swiggy even after the IPO?
Yes, we are not in a mood of selling. We are in a mood of keep investing in India.
Okay.
So our intention is to keep investing and invest more, generally in India.
But no plans to, sell some of your stake from Swiggy yet?
No. PayU has a lot of growth ahead. We are doing well in credit also inside PayU. And just a quick story to inspire you. We invested in China 25 years ago.
Tencent?
Yes.
Yeah.
And for many years, people said, why don't you sell Tencent? They are valuing like 10, 20, $50 billion. People said, I was not there, but people made this question, like Tencent now is public, $10 billion, sell. And we haven't sold it. Now Tencent is a $600 billion company. We are in India. India can be as exciting or better than China. We have so much ahead. We are just getting started. We have space to build $10 billion companies here. That's the obvious, but $50 billion, $100 billion here.
Well, that's Process betting big on India. But the big earnings of the day are Ashok Leyland posting a healthy performance in the Q4 on expected lines. Net profit up 38%, primarily driven by a tax credit of 170 crore rupees. Revenue saw a spike of close to 6% as recent price hikes have boosted realization. The board approved a bonus issue of 1 share for every share held. It also approved a dividend of over 4 rupees per share. Moving on to metal giant JSW Steel, strong Q4, net profit up by over 13% year on year. Meeting street expectations, revenue declined by 3%, but in line with what the street was forecasting. JSW Steel has also sent a demand notice to banks requesting a refund of the 19,300 crore rupees paid under its resolution plan for Bhushan Power and Steel. Now, the company has also sought a 60-day delay in the liquidation proceedings. Banks have said they will decide on the refund during this period and don't have to immediately refund the money to the company. This was part of the terms and agreement between the company and the lenders when the deal was signed. Remember, there is a Supreme Court order that basically has said that the Bhushan Power deal between JSW under the IBC will no longer hold and the company will have to move towards liquidation. Up next on India Business Hour, 2 days after a Srinagar-bound IndiGo flight suffered damages to its nose cone due to a hailstorm, India's aviation regulator says Pakistan denied permission to the pilots to use its airspace. Remember, there is a NOTAM in place. Details on that coming up. You can catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Jio Hotstar. You're watching India Business Hour. The big global stories that we're tracking this evening. Over 50 Palestinians have been killed or are missing after an Israeli airstrike on a residential building in Gaza. Rescue operations have been stopped due to a lack of heavy machinery. Health officials in Gaza have said that at least 29 people, including children, have died due to starvation in the last few days. Officials have warned that thousands more are at risk of dying as limited aid begins trickling into the enclave. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has accused leaders of Britain, Canada and France of emboldening Hamas. This comes after the leaders threatened coordinated action if Israel did not stop its military offensive in Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister also said that President Macron, Prime Minister Khani and Prime Minister Starmer were on the wrong side of justice. The suspect in the fatal shooting of 2 Israeli embassy employees in Washington has been charged in federal court with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The suspect, Elias Rodriguez, has also been charged with murder of foreign officials and causing death with a firearm. Officials have said that more charges, including terrorism, could be added. From one war-torn region to another, U.S. President Trump has announced that there was a major prisoner swap between Russia and Ukraine. Trump congratulated both sides in the negotiations. Meanwhile, G7 nations have vowed to impose more sanctions on Russia if it fails to make progress towards peace with Ukraine. 2 days after a Srinagar-bound IndiGo flight suffered damages to its nose cone due to a hailstorm, India's aviation regulator has said that Pakistan denied permission to the pilots to use its airspace. The pilots were attempting to escape bad weather, but their request was rejected by Pakistani authorities. Remember, the Pakistan airspace has been closed to Indian Airlines after Operation Sindoor. In fact, that closure is now extended to the 23rd of June on both sides. The passengers and pilots managed to escape without injuries, fortunately. Madiha joins us now to give us a timeline of what transpired on that IndiGo flight that evening. Madiha.
It was an extremely harrowing experience for these passengers on board IndiGo's Delhi-Srinagar flight 6E2142. And why not? If the aircraft is being hit by ice balls from all over and is descending at 8,500 feet per minute, we can only imagine the state of the crew as well as the passengers during those moments. The incident occurred on Wednesday, 21st May. It was all normal when the flight took off from Delhi at around 5 p.m. Problem started after a few minutes into the journey when the aircraft, cruising at 36,000 feet, entered hailstorm and severe turbulence near Pathankot. Now, according to what the pilots have told the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, they requested the Indian Air Force for permission to deviate towards the left, which is the international border, but IAF did not allow the flight to do that. Remember, Pakistan has closed its airspace for Indian carriers, and IAF's denial could be based on the airspace restrictions to avoid any potential adverse action by Pakistan. Then the pilots directly contacted Lahore ATC to enter into their airspace to avoid the weather, but they were not allowed to enter by the ATC authorities in Lahore as well. The statement further states that the crew initially attempted to return to Delhi, but as they were close to the thunderstorm cloud, they decided to penetrate the weather, and subsequently the aircraft was in the middle of hailstorm and severe turbulence. With limited options to navigate in the mountain region, the crew chose to continue to fly through the weather by the shortest route towards Srinagar. The weather was extreme and the aircraft triggered several warnings: angle of attack fault, alternate law protection lost, backup speed scale unreliable. These were the warnings triggered by the aircraft system. Due to the upward and downward movement of the wind, the aircraft lost the autopilot control as the wind speed had steep variations. During this period, the aircraft descended at 8,500 feet per minute, much higher than the typical descending rate of 1,500 to 2,000 feet per minute. The crew flew the aircraft manually till they exited the hailstorm and landed safely at Srinagar Airport. The flight landed at 6:30 p.m., making it the most terrifying 90 minutes for the crew and the passengers. The aviation regulator is conducting further investigation into this incident.
Well, a harrowing flight for certain, and thank God, no injuries at the end of it. Madiha, many thanks for joining us. Now, Pakistan has extended the airspace closure for Indian Airlines by a month to the 23rd of June. India has also banned Pakistan Airlines from accessing Indian airspace till the 23rd of June. Now, US President Trump's tax cut bill has proposed a 3.5% tax on remittances sent by individuals who aren't citizens to their countries of origin. The bill that was passed by the US House of Representatives refers to the tax as an excise tax. Now, the final version of the legislation reduces the controversial tax from the proposed 5%. Nearly 3 million Indians work in the United States under various visa programs. The US contributed nearly 28% of remittances for India in FY24, so this is certainly going to hurt the Indian diaspora's ability to send money to India. Harvard University has sued the Trump administration. Now, this comes after the US government revoked Harvard University's certificate to enroll international students. The US government has said that the university failed to create a safe campus environment and has alleged that many anti-American, pro-terrorist agitators on the campus are foreign students. The Department of Homeland Security had given the university 72 hours to comply with 6 federal demands to regain its eligibility. Shilpa joins us now with the details. Shilpa, Harvard is fighting back against the Trump administration. Take us through the main prayers part of Harvard's plea.
Well, absolutely, Shireen. You know, in the lawsuit, Harvard University, that it has filed against the US government, the university has called the recent revocation of its SEVP certification, it's called it a blatant violation of the First Amendment, of the Due Process Clause and the Administrative Procedure Act. Now, in the lawsuit, Harvard accuses the government of acting unlawfully and unconstitutionally, stating that the Department of Homeland Security bypassed required legal procedures under the F1 and the J1 visa rules. The withdrawal of Harvard's ability to sponsor international students, it claims, was done without warning, explanation or due process. Now, the university has said that the fallout is already being felt. It describes the impact in the lawsuit as immediate and irreparable, disrupting daily academic and research operations, causing reputational harm and putting its ability to attract top global talent at risk. Now, future international applicants may now hesitate to apply, fearing further political interference, is what Harvard has also said. Now, the Harvard International Office also, which manages visa-related matters, is also under pressure. With a $3.4 million annual budget and a 25 staff, the office operations, staffing, long-term viability is also uncertain. Now, at the student level, it said that this means Harvard can no longer sponsor F1 or J1 visa holders for upcoming terms. Now, this affects more than 7,000 current international students, including over 5,000 F1 visa holders, which make up roughly 26-27% of Harvard's student population, spanning its 13 schools, and these are students from 143 countries. Many of these students hold teaching, research and advisory roles, and all of these are now in jeopardy. Now, this revocation, Harvard says that effective immediately, most of Harvard's these many thousands of students will have little choice but to secure transfer to another school or risk being rendered without a lawful status in the United States. Now, Harvard is seeking immediate relief from the courts to reverse the revocation and restore its SEVP certification. Now, this is a certification that allows institutions to issue forms I-20, which prospective international students then use to apply for a visa to enter the United States. So, for now, Harvard is seeking an urgent judicial review to halt what it is calling an unlawful and politically motivated action to protect the legal status of its international students and also the broader academic mission of the country.
Shilpa, many thanks for joining us. Harvard now suing the US Trump administration. Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the first Rising Northeast Investor Summit in the capital. In his address, the Prime Minister called the region India's new growth engine. The event saw major investment pledges from large conglomerates like Reliance, the Adani Group and Vedanta. Speaking at the summit, Reliance Chairman Mukesh Ambani pledged to double the group's investment in the region to 75,000 crore rupees in the next 5 years, adding that the company will also help transform the region into a healthcare hub.
Reliance Foundation will bring the best of cancer care to the Northeast. To begin with, we have established a 150-bed comprehensive cancer hospital in Manipur. We are collaborating with Mizoram University on care of breast cancer using genomic data. In Guwahati, we have built an advanced molecular diagnostic and research lab. It will be among the largest genome sequencing capacities in India. We will help transform the Northeast into a healthcare hub and a research powerhouse.
Well, that's Reliance Industries' Mukesh Ambani there at the Rising Northeast Summit in the capital, pledging commitments. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. We've got a lot more coming up for you. The news will continue. Thanks very much for watching.